Meet Joe Goldberg, a nice normal guy who manages a bookstore, but one day his life changes when a woman walks in and he has a meet-cute with Guinevere Beck. Joe is instantly smitten. In fact, his inner monologue changes, talking to Beck, "Hello, you," which gives the show its name. Now, like any reasonable modern dater, Joe immediately starts stalking her social media. But he goes a step further and starts stalking her offline. Oh yeah, nah, he's a creeper. But Joe's not a bad guy who wants to hurt her or anything, and we get his inner monologue where he's convinced himself this is all very reasonable. So much like Dexter from back in the day, Joe is an anti-hero we can kind of root for, and the tone of this show is not a psycho thriller. Joe's stalking problem is more of a dark comedy. So Guinevere Beck is trying to be a writer, but she spends a lot of time partying with her friends, and one night drunkenly taking the train home, oh no, she falls and Joe's gotta save her! They have a second meet cute. Oh yeah, you're the girl from the bookstore, what a coincidence, only in New York, right? And so their love story is off to a great start, but there's immediately a problem: Beck's current kind of boyfriend, Benji. He's a douchey trust fund hipster who doesn't really respect Beck, so Joe's like, oh Beck, I gotta save you from him. And that's really the essence of Joe's whole thing. He's got that white knight syndrome, wants to save Beck from all the problems in her life. He lures Benji into a dark hallway and hits him with the hammer. Okay, so Joe does kill people. Except he's really bad at killing people. Benji survives, but now Joe's got him locked in a cage. Why does Joe have a creepy glass cage? Well, it's in the bookstore. It's to preserve rare books. But as Joe found out when he was a kid taken in by the bookstore owner, it also is a great place to lock people up. Now Joe is convinced he's a good person. He doesn't want to kill Benji, but pretty soon he realizes he can't let him out without going to jail, and so he kills him. So now he's officially murdered someone, but he's like, hey, this was a good thing. I did it to save you, Beck. And for a while, things are wonderful as Joe and Beck are madly in love. But soon there's a new obstacle: Beck's best friend, Peach Salinger, who doesn't like Joe and is overly possessive of Beck. So Joe puts Beck on his classic stalker baseball cap to investigate Peach. And after stealing her laptop, he finds out she is also obsessively in love with Beck. So Joe follows them to Peach's parents' country house where Peach is stalking Beck while Joe is stalking Peach stalking Beck. But after Beck goes home, Peach discovers Joe, and after a scuffle, he kills her too. Joe was very good at writing believable suicide notes in other people's voices. But again, not a criminal mastermind. While he was hiding, he peed in a jar and left it there, a piece of physical evidence that the PI Peach's parents hired may or may not ever find. And so for a while, things are really good again. But soon Joe has bad dreams. He's being haunted by his ex-girlfriend, Candace. Candace has come up a few times. The story is she cheated on Joe and broke his heart and ran off with a boyfriend to Italy. But now we get to see they were in love, and Joe became overly possessive, and when he stalked them, found out she was cheating, he pushed this guy off the roof, and it sure looks like he killed Candace too. And now it's happening again. He suspects Beck is cheating on him with her therapist, Dr. Nikki. But unlike Candace, Beck comes clean. Yes, I was, but I broke it off because I love you, Joe, and these two can live happily ever after. Except, by chance, Beck finds Joe's secret hidey hole with all his stalker stuff, including evidence that links him to the murder of Benji and Peach. And before she can flee, Joe knows that she knows, so now Beck's the one locked in the book cage. He's like, Beck, I'm so sorry. I would never hurt you. Everything I've done has been to help you. I just gotta keep you locked in here until you cool down and realize that, which of course is never gonna happen. After a while, with nothing else to do, Beck starts writing. In fact, she writes the story of her and Joe, but she changes the ending so that it's her jilted lover, Dr. Nikki, who killed her friends and kidnapped her. And she's like, look, Joe, I love you. This'll be our story. You can let me out and we can live happily ever after. So Joe lets her out, but of course she was lying and tries to escape. Unfortunately, there's another cage upstairs, and so Joe realizes Beck is not his true love after all, and he does murder her, so yeah, kind of a bad guy. Beck's story was a good one, and with the planted evidence, Dr. Nikki goes to jail. And in fact, Joe gets Beck's book published posthumously, and it's a huge hit. So even after murdering her, he's like, well, Beck, you're welcome. Now, almost immediately, a new woman walks in. Hello, you. But it's not a new you, it's an old you. It is Candace. Yeah, she's alive. She tracked him here. And that's where season 1 comes to an end. So in season 2, we see that Joe did indeed kidnap Candace, and when she tried to run, he accidentally killed her. But he's really bad at killing people. She was totally fine. Went to the cops, but with no physical evidence, there was nothing to do but pretend to be dead. But when she read Beck's book, she knows it was Joe who did it again, and now she's here to hang vague threats of exposure over his head. So Joe gets up to go to the bathroom, and he goes all the way to Los Angeles, where he hopes Candace can't find him. He gets a job at the organic supermarket, a Navrin, managing the little book section there. And though he's promised himself he's gonna stop stalking, almost immediately he spots a new girl. Hello, you. Her name is Love. She's the food supervisor here, and she and Joe have a meet cute. And she's real into Joe, asks him on a date for a taco tour of LA. It's a magical evening, and these two are off to a whirlwind romance without Joe stalking her. Except we find out he actually met her earlier, and that's why he got the job there and the apartment where he can stalk her, so old habits die hard. So as things with Love are generally going good, Joe gets wrapped up in a major subplot with his building manager Delilah, who has a precocious younger sister Ellie who wants to be a filmmaker. She's landed an internship with this comedian Henderson, and Hendy seems like a good guy, but he and Delilah have some history. She can't prove it, but when she was was a teenager, Hendy roofied and sexually assaulted her. So Joe wants to protect Ellie, use his stalking powers for good, and indeed one night, Hendy's gonna drug her, but luckily Joe's there to drug him too. Joe doesn't want to kill him, he just wants him to confess, but turns out Joe is really good at killing people when he's trying not to. Now Love's parents actually own a Novrin, and her twin brother 40 also kind of works here. He's a classic LA douche who thinks he's a screenwriter because he had one almost hit, but really he's just a Hollywood-adjacent party boy. He is sober these days, except when he's not, and Joe's got to babysit him a bunch because Love loves him. Pretty soon, Joe gets to meet Love's parents. 40 has brought his new girlfriend to meet the parents too, but turns out it is Candace. She found Joe and is here under a fake name to loom the threat of exposure over him. So Joe puts on his stalker cap to take care of Candace, but turns out Love has it covered because she's rich and the Quinns have PIs on retainer. When Love exposes Candace, she tries to tell her that Joe's a stalker killer, but Love doesn't want to hear it. She does discover, though, that Joe lied about his identity. He tells the partial truth, I was running from my crazy ex-girlfriend, but she's like, I'm mad you lied to me, we break up. To make Joe jealous, Love immediately rebounds with a hot Australian, and Joe joins in and starts banging his neighbor Delilah. But even after Hendy's death, she's still trying to expose him, and when she finds out Joe was in his house, she does some snooping. She finds his secret, creepy, clear cage with Hendy's laptop in it. Just then Joe arrives and locks Delilah in the cage. He's like, look, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna let you go. He gets some time-release handcuffs, like, hey, just chill out for a day while I book a flight out of the country. He figures Love is better off without him and leaves her a goodbye note, but just then 40 comes, hey, you read books, right? Can you help me write a script? As part of his process, they also do LSD, so the next morning Joe rushes to Delilah to discover she's already been killed, and he blacked out last night, doesn't remember if he did it. Turns out he did come here last night, but 40 also booty called Candace, which gave up this location. Now she rushes in and traps Joe in the cage. Haha, man, how do you like it? Before she calls the cops, she calls Love first because she knows her seeing Joe for who he really is will just hurt him more. But Love actually takes Joe's side and she kills Candace. Turns out Love has her own psychotic issues. She knew from the beginning that Joe was stalking her, but she took that as evidence that he loved her so much and she was into it. And when he wanted to leave town so Delilah could live, Love couldn't allow that and she killed Delilah. So you'd think these two are perfect for each other, but for Joe, this kind of ruins her. He convinces her to let him out, then is gonna kill her, but she drops a bomb, I'm pregnant! And Joe's whole thing is how he was abandoned by his mom at a young age, so this changes things. He's like, I'll never abandon this baby. Meanwhile, Candace told 40 how Joe was the murderer, and he went to talk to Dr. Nikki, who confirmed it. So 40 busts in to save his sister, and looks like this might be the end for Joe. But a shot rings out, and Joe's still alive. It was the cop that was following them and walked in on the situation. Love is devastated by her twin's death, so she and Joe decide to make a fresh start to move to the suburbs of San Francisco. So Joe is set to live happily ever after with his wonderful wife who loves him, flaws and all. But Joe's not happy, he hates suburbia, and Love is not his you anymore. But almost immediately through his fence, he spots his neighbor. Hello, you. So in season 3, Joe and Love are living the new parent dream, but Joe's obsessed with his neighbor Natalie, so he puts on his baseball cap and starts a stalking. She's married to tech guy Matthew Engler, but she invites Joe over for a neighborly glass of wine because she's that unhappy housewife stereotype ready to have an affair. But Joe actually shuts it down. He really wants to be a good husband to Love. But Love can tell that his heart's not in it, and she gets suspicious, finds his stalker box. She has Natalie, a realtor, show her a listing for a new bakery, then down in the basement, kills her with an axe. Love's like, hey Joe, no more obsessing about other women, you love me only. And as Love and Joe work together to cover up this crime, it actually brings them closer together. So when Love opens her new bakery, in the basement they build a plastic cage, just in case. Now Joe just can't keep away from books, so soon he gets a job at his local library. But he hits it off with his boss Marianne, and before you know it, hello, you. So Joe gets back up to his usual stalker antics, and one day during a sprinkler malfunction, these two are making out. But she's like, whoa Joe, we can't do this, you're married. And in fact, Joe's doing everything he can to keep this one secret so Love doesn't murder her. Luckily, Love is distracted with her own problems, trying to open a bakery in a town where no one eats carbs. Except for Theo, the neighbor's son home from college, who hits it off with Love. In fact, he falls in love with her. And though Joe's trying to hide it, she can tell he's distant, while Theo gives her that obsessive attention she craves. Meanwhile, they've befriended the neighborhood's queen bee with her alpha male husband, and these two are swingers, invite Love and Joe to join them, and Love's down to try if it'll put the spark back in their marriage. But as they get started, Joe is fantasizing about Marianne, and Love can absolutely tell. They have a blowout fight where Love explicitly talks about how they murdered Natalie, and it's apparent these two heard him, so this fun night takes a deadly twist. Now their cage has some new residents, and this does briefly reignite that spark. Meanwhile, Natalie's tech husband has hacked all the cameras to investigate her disappearance. When Theo finds out, he checks a different angle to find out Joe was driving the car. He tries to warn Love, your husband's a killer, but she's like, oh, you sweet boy, I'm the killer too. Joe and Madeline have fallen madly in love. He's like, hey, I'm gonna leave my wife and we'll run away together. His only obstacle left is Love. He grabs a knife just in case, but she was one step ahead of him, poisoned the handle. But as she's gonna kill him, oh, Joe is not really paralyzed. Yeah, he noticed her planting poison in their garden, so he's decided to take an antidote and make his own just in case, and now that is how Love dies. freeze. So Joe does what he does best, writes a suicide note from love, confessing to all the murders and blaming suburbia for driving her crazy. But the only way to avoid being implicated himself is to make it look like he was her final victim. As for their son, Joe realizes he's better off without them and leaves him with a nice couple looking to adopt. And Joe Goldberg, now with the freedom of being legally dead, starts over with a new identity in a new city. In fact, he's gone real far this time. He heads to Paris, looking for his current you, Marianne. But it's actually in London where he finally finds her, and it's not the romantic reunion he was hoping for because, she's afraid he's gonna murder her. But Joe's like, whoa, I'm a good guy, I would never hurt you, and to prove it to her and himself, Joe actually lets Marianne go. So Joe decides to stick around London for the season with a new alias, Jonathan Moore, and a new look, the bearded sexy professor. With his love of literature, Joe makes a great professor, and he's doing better not stalking this season. Through the window he sees his coworker's girlfriend, Kate Galvin. The U-Talk starts up, but he shuts it down real quick. Joe's doing better now. But by chance one night, Joe saves Kate from a mugging, and Joe finds himself in the inner circle of London's young, ultra-wealthy social elite who are selfish and vapid, and Joe hates them. Except for their one friend, Rhys Montrose, a real good guy who grew up poor, has a lot in common with Joe. These two hit it off. But the rest of the group are very hard partiers. Joe can't keep up, he blacks out. He wakes up with a bad hangover and a dead Malcolm on his table. Joe assumes he killed him for being a douche and sets about disposing the body. But that night Joe gets a mysterious text. Turns out someone was trying to frame Joe and is now very intrigued by Joe's professional body disposal skills. And so this season, the you of Joe's inner monologue is this mysterious killer, and it's a murder mystery as Joe tries to figure out which of these socialites did the deed. Murder mystery is not Joe's favorite genre, so he gets help from his star student Nadia, who tells him to have his detective lean into their strengths. So Joe puts his stalker skills to use, finds out everyone's dirty secrets, and turns out they all had some motive to kill Malcolm. But when another one's murdered, the artist Simon seems someone's targeting this whole group and is dubbed the Eat the Rich Killer. Now for some reason, this whole group has very quickly taken to their new friend Jonathan, except for the one Joe actually likes, Kate. She's very standoffish and is justifiably in a bad mood because her boyfriend was just murdered, but soon she and Joe connect over past trauma and start up a torrid affair. So with the killer hunting them, the group hides at Lady Phoebe's country house for the weekend, where they have a murder mystery party, which is maybe in bad taste. And as tends to happen in this situation, there's a real murder, and this time the killer tries to frame Kate. Joe helps Kate dispose of the body, but he's caught by their other friend Rold. Rold hates Joe because he's obsessed with Kate and is jealous that these two are falling in love. So he puts Joe on trial as the Eat the Rich Killer and sentences him to being hunted in the woods. But Joe's saved by the real killer, Rhys Montrose. Yes, turns out Rhys kind of hates all his spoiled friends, and he's gonna run for mayor, can't have their dirty secrets infecting his campaign. With Rhys running for mayor, he's always protected, Joe can't just kill him, but Rhys breaks into Joe's apartment all the time. He still wants Joe to be his best friend, which in this case means finding someone to frame, or else he's going to frame Joe. Conveniently, Phoebe's abducted by her stalker, so Joe gets there first and plants some evidence. She goes down as the Eat the Rich Killer. With that taken care of, Rhys backs off a bit, Joe and Kate continue to date, and Joe finally starts addressing her in his head as you. Soon he meets her father, Tom Lockwood, a very powerful billionaire. When Kate's not around, he reveals that he knows Joe's real identity and is sure that he killed his wife Love Gwyn. Now long story short, Rhys and Lockwood both want Joe to kill the other for him. Rhys has leverage because he's found Marianne and taken her hostage, but Lockwood's like, yo, I know where Rhys is isolated. So Joe finally gets the upper hand on the killer, Rhys Montrose. He interrogates him for Marianne's location, but Rhys is playing dumb, I don't even know who that is. Joe gets angry, loses control, and kills him, but now something really weird happens because Rhys Montrose steps out of the shadows. Turns out it's just that classic twist. This Rhys Montrose was in Joe's head. So congrats, Joe, you finally had a complete mental break, and that's why you've been so good this season. You sectioned off your dark side into fake Rhys. Unfortunately, this means Joe did not let Marianne go. She's locked in the cage. He's like, I'm so sorry, it really wasn't me. Joe's gonna let her go, then flee the country, but before he can, she overdoses from the pills his Rhys persona gave her. And Joe feels terrible that once again, he's killed someone he loved. He has a dream with all the youths from his past to help him see, Joe, you're the problem. There's only one way to break the cycle. And so, in an emotional breakthrough, Joe accepts he has this dark side, but he makes the choice to end it by jumping off the bridge and killing himself. But the bridge wasn't high enough. Joe's totally fine. Kate's like, yo, what the hell, bro? He's like, Kate, I'm sorry, but I'm a bad person. She points out, though, that if you feel bad about being bad, how bad can you be? I never thought about it like that before. She's like, look, I got a dark side too, but we both want to be good, so let's work together and keep each other good. But she's got problems with her evil dad, who's still trying to control her life. So Joe steps in with his white knight instincts, teams up with his dark side to kill her evil father. But before he begins his new good life, there's a loose end with his student Nadia, who through a series of events has come to suspect him. Earlier, she found Marianne in the basement, but for absolutely nonsense reasons, they decided they couldn't call the cops. So instead, they switched the pills, and Marianne faked her death. Yeah, she's totally fine, made it back to France with her daughter. But now Nadia finds evidence to take Joe down. Unfortunately, Joe is one step ahead. But he's like, whoa, I'm a good person now, I'm not gonna kill ya. I will, however, kill your boyfriend and frame you for it, so you're welcome. And now Joel Goldberg's ready to start fresh, which unfortunately involves shaving his beard. With his girlfriend Kate's billionaire powers, he's able to undo his fake death and come back with his real name. He's come to accept his dark passenger as part of himself, but with Kate's help, he thinks he can control it and be good. And so Joe Goldberg is living his dream, back in New York with a loving girlfriend he can be a full-time supportive boyfriend to. And now with billions of dollars backing him, he's completely gotten away with all of his crimes. And that's where Season 4 comes to an end. If you liked this recap, hit that subscribe button for more of the best recaps of TV and movies.